need money, this a triple threat. Really started with nothing, had to manifest. If you don't know your worth, they gon' give you less. Why they envy me? Cause I'm the best. MVP. My legacy is how they remember me. And I know success brings your enemies.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Triple Threat Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Bruce, aka Detroit Mogul.
It's Vic Gurley, aka MVP Vic.
It's your boy Brian Keys, aka BK609.
So, fellas, we got a lot to talk about today. This is gonna be probably one of the craziest episodes. Because the thing about it is that as us being grown men, there's a lot of changes and differences that we see, how we see life now compared to how we were as kids, right? So, I mean, starting off, for both of y'all, and I'll tap into, what are some of the like lessons you would say that you learned when it comes to education, being important as a child versus the importance of the education that you learn as an adult? Like, what would you say? I'm gonna go to Brian first.
You sure you want to go to me first?
Go to you first, man.
Let's hear it.
All right, so I've seen it on both ends. You know, when I graduated high school, my stepfather was in the military. I never wanted to go to the military because I hated, you know, moving around and jumping from school to school and starting friends all over again. But my mom was like preaching, you need to go to college. You need to go to college. You need to go to college. And honestly, I had an opportunity. I was the assistant coach for this basketball team on base. And one of the players' dads took a liking to me and offered me a job opportunity fresh out of high school, making $60,000 a year. Fresh out of high school. It was, I want to say it was Cisco networking or Cisco routing or something like that.
Yeah, I know.
IT.
Yeah. And my mom said no.
What?
Said no.
Wow.
Mind you, my mom wasn't even making $60,000
Right.
a year at that time.
Yeah.
But she was like, you got a choice. You either going to go to college or you're going to join the military. I was like, well, I guess college it is because I ain't going to the fucking military. I ain't, nah. So, yeah. That's what I did.
So what about versus now? Do you agree with that? Like, you still feel like?
I understand the reason why, and I can't say I either agree or disagree. I understand the idea or the mindset of stability. You know, me and a lot of my friends, you know, growing up with military parents, AKA working for the government, because that's essentially what being in the military is. Of course, the wives end up working for the military, whatever spouse wasn't working for the government or whatever agency if they weren't in the military. So that's kind of what they preached to us was get your degree, get you a good government job is what they used to say. And I mean, again, I understand the stability of doing that because at the end of the day, you got a government job. You really don't, it's hard to get fired from a government job. You really got to fuck up.
I did hear that.
You really got to fuck up. Like, you really got to be doing some wild stuff. And they'll still give you chance after chance. They'll put you on probation and all types of stuff. And honestly, I can't say that I'm disappointed with the decision to go that route. Because again, it stability. You know, I when COVID hit, I think we talked about this in one of the other episodes. I did not have to worry. I wasn't upset, wasn't scared, wasn't nervous. Literally was sitting at home, chilling, playing video games, but that check was coming every 2 weeks, regardless. So, and I mean, it was well over six figures.
Yeah.
You know, so at the end of the day, I get the argument or battle of entrepreneurship versus going to college and getting a job. And I can honestly say I don't see anything wrong with doing either one. I can see the perks in both.
What about you, Vic? Did you go to college?
I did. I dropped out
Okay, gotcha.
twice. So, I mean, my my situation was somewhat simple as far as like college. So I was always encouraged to go to college. I was always told that I needed to be the first one in the family to graduate from college. So early on, that was my focus. Like, all right, I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna go to college. It was drilled in my head that in order to be successful, in order to live a good life, make a lot of money, you had to go to college. Mm-hmm. So I did go to college, and I had fun.
Of course, of course.
Probably too much fun. That's probably why I ended up dropping out. Nah, that is why I ended up dropping out. But it just it wasn't for me because I think I saw so much more. And then just like in high school, I'm sure we've all asked the question like, how am I going to use this in the real world? How's this going to help me later on in life? I did the same thing in college. And I mean, yeah, your first your undergrad years, your first couple years, you doing your right. Basic stuff, a continuation of high school. But anyway, so I dropped out, and I began to get in the mind frame where I don't think I need school because I don't think they're going to teach me the things that I need to know to survive in the world. And I found that out because when I dropped out of school, so I got put on academic probation, mm-hmm. then suspension. So I had to leave. They told me I had to leave for a semester. I just ended up not going back. So I dropped out, and it was just me. So I had
to get any pushback from your mom?
Not so. They wanted me to stay in school, of course, but I mean, once I got the academic suspension, it was like, okay, well, I can't go anyway, at least for a semester. So yeah, I mean, at that point, it was like, all right, now I gotta figure it out. I'm on my own. And looking back, it's like, okay, school didn't teach me how to survive in this situation. Mm-hmm. So I got into I've always kind of had the entrepreneur mind frame, but I mean, after doing the college thing for the short time I did, now I'm looking at it like I didn't need it. Because looking back now, people that I was in college with, that got degrees, I'm doing better than, I mean, nothing against them, but I'm in a better position than they are. Most of them aren't even working in careers that have to do with their degree.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, when I look at college, I'm like, I feel like it's a continuation of high school, and it's a way to, I think it kind of breeds employees, like workers. Yeah. And like I said, it's nothing wrong with it because everybody's not built to be an entrepreneur.
Facts.
Everybody is, I mean, that's just how it is. It's just not easy. So my personal opinion, I think the only people that really need college is like doctors, lawyers, dentists, like specialty career fields like that. Other than that, you can learn everything you need to know on your own, especially in the world we live in now. We have access to everything online.
Yeah. I mean, I've always heard that college is like a networking thing too. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Especially some Ivy League colleges. You know what I'm saying?
It's a networking thing, number one. Number two, I had a different experience than you did with college. Even though, I mean, same thing. I started off partying. My GPA was, I think it was 2.4, 2.2, 2.0, 1.8, then suspended. It literally, because you remember how we was talking about the club promoting thing? I was doing that, traveling all the way to Virginia Beach and, just doing stuff like that. And my grades kept dropping. Got suspended. Funny thing is, my stepfather, he's probably going to hate that I'm going to say this shit, but I'm going to say it because it's real. When I got suspended, my stepfather was like, you ain't going to be shit. Mm. You fucked up. Your brother's going to be the superstar. You ain't going to be nothing. To me, that lit a fire under my ass to come back to school and make it happen. And I did. I came back to school, and it went the other way. I went 3.0, 3.2, 3.4, 3.6, 3.8. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And as far as like the skills learned, I do think that I learned stuff in college that I wouldn't have necessarily learned out there in the field or just out there in the world. For example, I was a communication major. So that's probably going to hit you like, now it makes sense why he is the way he is with certain things. So I learned how to pick up on a lot of cues in conversation and stuff like that with people and how to fire back and just, just to have that conversation and talk about stuff that the average person is not going to talk about. They're not going to bring up in certain situations. And another thing is I went to George Mason University, which was at the time the nation's #1 most culturally diverse university. So I learned a lot about other cultures and how to be sensitive to, just different ways of thinking and the different ways that people do different things.
Makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? So, because again, growing up in Jersey and Trenton, if we saw somebody white in the neighborhood, it was a dope head, and going to George Mason University, like I said, you're around white people, Asians, Koreans, Indians, Afghans, whatever. Like you're learning so much about so many different cultures.
Right.
So I can honestly say, would I have changed that experience? No.
Gotcha.
Now, would I have opened my mind to entrepreneurship sooner? Absolutely.
I mean, the thing about it is, though, when y'all went to school too, like entrepreneurship is so praised because of the internet.
Yeah.
Think about when y'all went to school, like the internet wasn't what it is now.
Right.
So it was 10 times harder back then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like even back then, if y'all think about it, people would still get praised for having like a trade. You know what I'm saying? Like you go get a trade and learn how to do carpenter or whatever, like that was still cool.
Yeah.
Now you tell somebody, they're like,
right.
It sounds like peon works for some people. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the difference now, you know what I'm saying, versus when we were going back. Because for me, listen, it wasn't for me, man. I went to school. I went to Wayne County Community College, did okay there, transferred here, and went to Hillsborough Community College. I couldn't pass accounting for shit. I failed that motherfucker 3 times. I said, oh, no, it's time for me.
I failed that a couple times myself.
Yeah. I got a job at $12 an hour here, unlimited overtime. I was working 78 hours a week here. I was like, it's over with. I went from $8 an hour in Detroit to $12 an hour here. I thought I was getting paid. I'm like, shoot, skip this school.
Yeah.
My mom was with it because she the one who got me the job.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, all right, well, I'm making money now. So I'm like, skip that school stuff. You know what I'm saying? I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I never knew what lane I wanted to go into. So that's why I was like, yo, I'm going to do 1-2 jobs or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was for me. But let me ask y'all, if y'all were to have your son in that same predicament, right? Let's just say both y'all sons is like, they don't know where they want to go. And it was kind of, and it was like trying to figure out like, I need to direct my son to go. What would y'all do? Like, would y'all say like, you need to go to college?
I'm gonna show military. Both. I'm gonna show them both. Like, I think the good thing about this group is we've got somebody who's, we all had different experiences. So I think with both of us, and I will hope you would do the same with your son, I would send him Vic's way. Like, hey, go hang with Mr. Vic for a little bit. Let him show you the ropes of the business side. And then, I would show him, hey, look, this is what I do and this is how I do it and why I do it. And let him make his own decision.
Yeah, I think definitely allowing them to choose for themselves. But I think the big thing that I would probably do differently than, when I was a kid is showing him how to operate on both sides. Because it was always just school, go to college, get a good job, and then you can live how you want. So I'm thinking like, okay, I need to find a job that's paying the most. Even if I don't like the career field, I'm looking for the stuff, whoever got the most commas. But it's like, okay, looking at it in hindsight, most people that end up doing that aren't happy.
Yeah.
They may get paid a lot of money, but they hate getting up to go to work.
Right.
So I think what I'm gonna push is figure out what you actually like, and then I'll show you how to get there. Now, naturally, yes, I would probably push more for entrepreneurship. And I mean, I have things in place now to where once he comes of age, if he wants to get into that, I already have that, building up.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I'm the same way too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you'll see early on, like you can probably see with your daughter, because me and you got older kids. You can see, like, are they going to be an entrepreneur or not really? You know what I'm saying? You can kind of think, like, do they have that?
Yeah.
Because I know my daughter, she would love to, but my daughter, she don't have that, like, hustle, you know what I'm saying, in her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So my daughter probably might not be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still teaching her financial literacy, but as far as entrepreneurship, she's up to it, but I don't think, and maybe it could change.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My son, early on, he's a leader. He likes to lead. He likes to do stuff his own way. It comes an issue with parenting, but at the same time, I still warrant it because I'm like, as a leader, he gonna become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, what about your daughter? What you think? You think?
It changes.
Okay.
It literally changes every year. Last year, she wanted to do what I do.
Okay.
Now she wants to be more in the beauty realm. I can't say that's what I want her to do.
You don't want her to admit?
Not necessarily. I don't think I want her to do that, but that's her choice. If that's what she wants to do,
What's your reason behind that?
Huh?
What's your reason behind that?
I mean, everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. I do think that
it's $1 billion industry.
It is. It is. But it goes back to what you said, where it's like, some parents are more like education. And that's kind of where I am with it, where I'm like, all right, but I still want you to go to college and get your degree. So that way you do have something to fall back on if it doesn't work out. And if you are going to go to the beauty industry, I don't want you to just focus on one thing, because I think that that's where a lot of people who go into that industry and fail is because they focus on one thing versus
I'll have to dispute that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason why is because entrepreneurship in general, I think it's important to focus on one thing initially, master that, and then move. If you want to do something else, then move on.
Right.
I think a lot of people fail because they're not willing to put in the work and go through the hard stuff that you have to go through before you get to the easy stuff. So I don't think it's necessarily that they aren't good at it or don't know how to do it. I think it's more of the mentality, like, this shit gonna be hard. Like, entrepreneurship is not easy at all.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people quit once they have to face a certain amount of adversity and a certain amount of pushback from the world. So I think that's what it is. I think as kids, it's important that we teach them to have that mental strength so that when they do come up, when they do have that adversity that they're faced with, they not just saying, oh, nah, I ain't doing this no more because it's too hard.
So let's talk about that, though, right? So we all grew up, in urban neighborhoods in the hood. We've been there, right? Do we take our kids to the hood to experience some of that adversity? Because as we being, people that have money, our kids living good, like you said, we've been able to persevere through these things because we went through the hood and went through adversity. We went through stuff in school. Some of them ain't going through that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So how do we get them to get that adversity so they can be ready for the world?
So I'm going to take her to see it, but she don't necessarily need to experience it to know so I'm going to drive through and be like, yeah, I used to live right here. This used to happen here. But as far as be like, all right, get out the car. I want you to walk down this street. And I got you out of this for a reason. You can see it, but that's it.
I think in the real world, they're going to be faced with it regardless. Like, you're not going, we don't live in a world where you just gonna walk outside and only encounter people who are well established, living in, got money or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and a lot of parents try to shield their kids from,
right,
being in those type of environments, sending a kid to private school.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that I want my kid to go to public school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing, it's not no knock against private school, but in private school, those kids, most people do it because of, the way kids act in public school.
Yeah.
The kids in private school are just as bad and have more access.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if private school was more affordable
right
here in Tampa, because I think Tampa prep is like
it's
30
crazy.
grand.
Yeah. It's college type numbers.
Yeah. But I think there's more opportunities depending on what your child is into. Like as far as athletics, they're coming to the private school. Scouts are way more than they are the public school. Even though public schools, their athletes are really like that.
They go to the prep schools.
Yeah.
Not necessarily private. Actually, private schools really don't get a whole lot unless they're a prep school.
Well, I know. Well, shit. I guess that is the name of a Tampa prep, right?
Oh, well, yeah. I'm not sure if that, but yeah,
Tampa prep. They
prep schools, like they recruit kids to come to play sports, and it's almost like a job for them.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I went to private school.
Did you?
Yeah. So like, I was blessed that, my dad, again, I lived with my mom in the hood, but we would drive 25, 30 minutes to the affluent neighborhood to take me to school. So I went to private school from probably like 2nd grade to 6th.
Mm-hmm.
7th, I moved with my dad. I ended up going to public school for the first time. Did that for a year, left, went back to my mama's house, did 8th grade at private school. 9th grade, my freshman year, finally went to public school, high school. And then my dad moved to the suburbs and was like, yo, come live with me for the rest of the year. For the rest of the high school. And it wasn't a private school of high school or nothing like that, but it was just in a better neighborhood and stuff or whatever. So I would say for me, private schools, it made me diverse. Like even though I grew up in the hood and saw all the stuff going out there, being around, like you said, those different type of cultures and stuff like that, it made me diverse. And my grandma always wanted me to be well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the private school did for me.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I actually went to private school for 2 years. As a freshman, I went, and after my time there, I did learn to interact with people that weren't just like me. But that's where I learned, like, these kids, I'm thinking, like, I'm going to go here. These kids are all preppy, nerdy. Them kids was just as bad. But I'm talking, like, they got because they parents at work. So they got money. So they got access to the drugs. They got access to alcohol. It's all kind of stuff going on. And and these kids, they pulling up in S550, Hummers, Escalades in high school. So seeing those things, yes, that triggered something in my brain too. But it's like after that, like once I seen that, I experienced that, I was like, I don't like it. I just didn't like the environment. I was the black kid that played basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like coming from somewhere that wasn't the same environment that they're used to. They look at you as like an outsider, like, oh, you're here to play basketball. Like you're here to play sports. Like and I mean, even in college, like I went to the University of Tennessee. First thing people say, oh, you play sports? Well, I couldn't just go to school just to get an education.
Shit, I get that now, hopping out the goddamn car. You play for the Bucks? No. I'm like, I sell drugs. That's what you want me to tell you, right? That's what you want to hear, right?
Nah, facts.
What about money?
Oh man.
Let's talk money. What was you taught as a kid regarding like finances, financial literacy, if anything? What was you taught then? And then, how do you correlate to now?
For me, we didn't have those conversations. I'm starting to hear like now, me and my mom being so close now. We talk about stuff and she tells me certain stuff and I'm like, yo, like I knew Kmart, the Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, that layaway. I knew all that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know my mama was surviving off $1,500 a month. For 3 kids, 2 at the time, you know what I'm saying, before I got in high school. My stepdad, he didn't have no money and he had a whole bunch of kids and stuff like that. But like hearing the stuff now, I'm like, yo, my mama, stretch a dollar. My mama knew how to do that.
Yeah.
And she never let me see her struggle.
Right.
My dad, same way. I later on as high school, I knew when stuff wasn't good and whatever, but I couldn't tell nothing. And we never had a conversation about money. The only thing I would say that my dad taught me was about saving money. So I don't know if y'all know about Cedar Point, the amusement park in Ohio. Mm-hmm. So what he used to do with us is like, he would say, okay, listen, we're going to go on that trip to the amusement park every summer, but you guys got to save up all year. So we had a 2-liter, soda, bottle, empty it, put the coins in there. And that would be the money to get us in. It was only $40 to get in there. So it ain't like we had to save a bunch of money. Yeah. But that was probably the closest financial literacy he gave me was saving money the whole year to go to the amusement park. But other than that, we never had a conversation about money ever.
Yeah. I think the conversation I had with my family growing up is back then it was you were always taught save. Save as much as you can. Now you learn invest. The money ain't doing nothing for you sitting in the bank account, but getting the government richer. Invest. So those will be the 2 differences. That
Did you know if your parents had money? They didn't have, like, could you experience that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I could see it and I picked up on a lot of things that they didn't think I would have picked up on. I just didn't say much about it. I just went with the flow. But I grew up in a house with let me count the people. My grandma, my grandfather, my aunt, her 2 kids, my other aunt, my uncle, my mom, and me.
That's a lot of people.
9 people in 3-bedroom house.
Wow.
But hey, we made it happen. So, they made sure that, like you said, you never really saw it, And then when me and my mom moved out, when she married my stepfather had 3 kids, and then they had another one, and then my younger brother and sister's mom passed away, so they lived with us. So it was me, my stepdad, my mom, stepbrother, and stepsister, and he was living off of E6 salary, and my mom was working at Macy's. So, but they did what they could.
Right, but you had no food stamps or government assistance or nothing like that.
Nah.
Yeah, we didn't either.
Yeah, they had. They had too much pride to do that.
I think my mom did too.
Yeah, they were just like, oh, we're gonna make it happen. I'm not doing that. That's for people that really, really need it. Mm-hmm. We got jobs, Nothing against people who do. If y'all watching,
right? Do what you gotta do.
Do what you gotta do. But my family had too much pride to do that. So,
what about you?
For me, it wasn't really. I didn't really get a lot of financial literacy education. One thing that I think was beneficial, when I was 12, I ended up starting a lawn service. And those that know now, I had a landscaping business. Just sold it. It was successful though, but it started then. I was 12, started a lawn service. So I'm pushing around a lawnmower, getting yards because.
What'd you charge?
$25 for
you
just cutting.
you was expensive, bro.
Look, 35 for cutting and edging.
Oh, you was getting it, bro.
Yeah.
That was cheap. I did the same thing, but I was only charging $10. So you
but see, I knew the things that I had to be able to afford because I couldn't get no phone. When I was 13, I had to buy all my own school clothes and shoes.
Oh, damn.
So, like, back to school shopping, I didn't get that. I had to go, well, I was taken to the store, but I had the money that I made.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of a big thing as far as, like, the hustle, because we know as kids, you know, you go to school, shit, kids is, you know, they is kind of ruthless.
Oh, man.
You know what I'm saying? So, it's like, all right, if I want certain things, I have to find a way to get it.
Yeah.
So I had no choice. And then I got to making some money, and then I got hit with you can pay the water bill now.
Oh, shoot. Hey. That's early.
So I was like, damn. So then I got to the shit to the point where I'm like, so I kind of start feeling myself because I'm like, well, I'm taking care of myself. My little brother brushing his teeth, he got the water running. I said, man, cut that shit off. I pay for that. So I mean, I think that was, I mean, looking at hindsight, I mean, then I didn't like it. I was like, man, I'm a kid. Why the hell don't none of my friends got to do this shit?
Right.
You know, everybody able to play video games. They out, you know, playing all day in the summertime. I'm pushed around lawnmower. But it was beneficial for me because I ain't have no choice. I had to work for it, or I wasn't getting nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, one of I would call him a mentor. When I was a kid, his name was Mr. Jack, and he had a roofing and painting company. So older black guy. He used to see me pushing around the lawnmower, and I remember one day he stopped and he was like, "Hey man, I see you always, you know, you always on the grind." And you know, he ain't like all the other kids, so he was like, you know, if you want to, you come work with me, make some more money. I see you about your money. So he actually taught me a lot of lessons that I look back on as an adult. And like, I understand a lot more. Then I mean, I did pick up on things, but it's like now, like that was
Hit you now.
like my first mentor, I think. And like, I used to ride with him, and that's what I would do all day. So I didn't have like the summers where I was always, you know, playing with my friends and stuff like that. I was working. So, and I think that kind of carried over too, because I learned to, where it's like, okay, well, damn, my mom ain't buying my shit for me. I got to go get it. So even as an adult, if I hit a rough patch, if I'm struggling, I know like, hey, I got to figure this shit out. Like, ain't nobody going to do it for me.
Yeah. I mean, I was spoiled all right, and I ain't going to hold you, man.
So you ain't had no job?
Bro, I didn't have to get a job until I was 16.
What?
Yeah. Like,
What was your first job?
Well, I had an unofficial job at Macy's.
Okay.
Put clothes back on the rack and stuff like that. But my official first job was at a place called Farmer Jack, which is a grocery store.
Okay.
But I was spoiled rotten. Like, I had a Nextel phone in high school. My grandma used to give me money. I had gas money. I had a car. I had all this. I was spoiled rotten. But my dad always did make us work in his office. My dad owned a tax business since early 90s, and he always worked there for it. So I got to see like my dad working hard, and then he would make us in there file paper, stuff like that. But I never knew how much money he was making. I just knew he had a business and he worked there for it. You know, so we never talked actual finances and money, but I did get to see hard work in front of me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that definitely helped me in life, because my dad, for him, my dad went to school, he got an associate degree in, you know, accounting or whatever, but he always taught me, like, for him, and from being in Jamaica, 2-3 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 2 jobs. I got 3. My brothers got 2. My other brother, like we just knew just as many jobs as you can. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was what we was taught.
Yeah.
Now, no. I'm not teaching my kids that. No. Make your money work harder for you than you work hard for your money.
Right.
All right. So one more aspect as children versus now, relationships. So, I mean, I think everybody was able to see, you know, different things, you know, with your parents, with your family members. So what were y'all taught, or what did you see or pick up as a kid in regards to relationships, like how to handle them, how to, you know, maneuver when you got adversity, when you at odds with each other, things like that?
Hey, look at me.
BK started off first.
I mean, for me, that's a tough one because my grandparents were together like forever, you know, and then once people pass away, that's when you start to find out the secrets and the skeletons in the closet, but they made it work, or at least you thought it was working.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say that's probably something that I've taken on too in relationships, where I will try to make it work until it just can't work.
Mm.
You know, I will try my hardest, try everything possible. But once it does get to a point where I'm like, okay, this just isn't going to work. You know, once I get fed up, then I'm done.
You had a relationship with your dad?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, he, started to develop one, I would say within the last like 5 years or so, but I'm 38. So at that point, it's kind of like you can be more of a friend than a dad. If anything,
Nice.
you know, there's nothing you can really teach me. You know, with all due respect, I still, even though he wasn't around much, I still have respect for him because that's just how I was raised. You know, I was never one of those, oh, well, you wasn't around, so you can't tell me what to do. Like for the most part, I was raised with my grandparents, and they, you know, taught me like mad shit. You know,
Gotcha.
they were on my head about respecting my elders, even if, you know, you see them doing something that's foul or not being a stand-up individual when it comes to raising their kids or whatever else.
Right.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, do you think that, because, and I could talk about it, but do you think your dad not being there and not seeing like a direct parents affected you of like, you know, maybe not staying and try to working through with the mother of your child?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. I mean, because at the end of the day, they were never together anyway.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it just, they were never together.
I'm the same situation.
Yeah. So I think that, like, you know, last time when we were talking about people going through different things in life and people saying that they didn't have certain things, you know, like a lot of kids or young men who get into shit early in life and fuck up their lives are like, well, my dad wasn't around. Mine wasn't either. Yours wasn't either. You know, look where we are. If you got that drive and that will and that want to do better, then that's what you're going to do.
Right.
That's what you're going to do. You're going to make it happen. You know, you're going to find a way.
Yeah.
So
there's some people just say the apple don't fall far from the tree.
mm-hmm.
So sometimes like you repeat the sins of your father.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've heard that. And I will say for me in relationships, I did take on a lot of stuff from my parents. Both of my parents were in marriages. My mom was in a marriage pretty much until she moved here. When we moved here, I was 19, turned 20. And then my dad was in different marriages throughout my life. He went from my brother's mom to then marrying another woman, and then that didn't work out. And so, you know, I saw different, his marriage was like 8 years, and then stop, and then he find somebody else is 8 years or whatever. So, but anyways, yeah, it did affect me, because the one thing I would say is that I learned to be intelligent about emotions from both of them, as far as not showing them. Some people look at it as, oh, he's unemotional. Now, it's that is more of like knowing when and how to properly react. My mom went through a lot of stuff that I didn't know about until the past couple of years that I've learned, but I never saw it. My mom vowed to never show any of whatever they had going on in front of her kids. My dad was the exact same way. Never saw them argue, ever, ever. All in the midst of all the stuff that was going on, I never saw any type of debacles that they had. And I know they had a lot, but I just never saw it. So I was like, all right, when I was in my previous relationships, I always tried to make sure I had the same type of, respect of like, no, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to debate in front of these kids. And if I feel like it's continually getting where it's happening too much and it's going to end up showing to the kids, I'm going to get out the relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want them to grow up to see that that's normal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, that's for me, I would say.
For me, it was a lot of things that I saw that my parents didn't think I saw or heard. I used to hear my parents argue late at night. I used to be up. I used to draw, or I'd be like just thinking, and I still do it to this day. I don't know if it's just something with me, but I would hear my parents arguing. I heard my mom crying. There was one instance when I was a kid. I was young, but I remember it vividly. Me, my mom, my little brother was about to go to church Sunday morning. My dad hadn't came home. We walking out the door, he walking in. And I remember the look on my mom's face. And she was always, my mom she always wanted to keep it together, didn't want us to see nothing. But I saw and heard like pretty much everything. And it was things like that would make me pay attention more. And I remember seeing that. And I knew my mom wasn't happy. So that affected my, like my dad. I think that's kind of when I began losing respect, because I saw how he handled things. And like I said, we never had a good relationship. And it's like, yeah, I knew my dad. My dad was around, but he wasn't there like as a father that I needed. So, and I mean, even to this day, like I remember my mom and my grandparents used to tell me like, you should talk to your dad, try to fit, that's your dad. So, I mean, as I grew older, I was just like, man, forget that. And I tried a couple times actually. And as an adult, my dad told me, I want his son.
Oh, wow.
Asked me to change I'm a junior. Asked me to change my name.
Wow.
So, looking back at like the relationship that my mother and father had, I think my mom put up with so much because she wanted so much for us to be a family.
Right.
And she tried to do things like so that we could feel like a family. We never did though. But it was forced. So that's what I saw from my end. And then like my grandparents, my mother's side, her mother and father was never married. On my dad's side, his mother and father was never married. So looking at their relationship, I realized like, some people say hey, if you married, stick it out, dude. I don't agree with that. Cause my mom was miserable. She ain't never said, but I could see it. And I never want to go through nothing like that just to save a marriage or keep the family together. Like, if it's not gonna work, if it's costing you your peace, you gotta let it go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess that's the difference between our parents, grandparents. When they got married and set them vows, it was about God. It was about we gonna, you know what I'm saying, make this commitment for the rest of our lives. But as you probably know, there's a lot of shit they went through. A lot of stuff where people today, they ain't stand. What? Cheating? Yeah. What? You cheating with the neighbor down the street? Nah, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So definitely think those things is a big difference, you know, between back then and now. But yeah, it's just good topics, brothers. It's good topics, man. And we talked about, I think a lot of people are going to definitely enjoy this episode. And for y'all that's watching, you know, like Instagram, if you're on YouTube, wherever, leave in the comments what y'all thought about this topic about the difference between back then, education, right now, even relationships, and even financial literacy. I want to hear from y'all. Put in the comments what y'all experienced back then as a kid and how you would maybe, you know, treat your kids differently now. So also, if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Share it as well, too. If you're on Instagram, make sure you tag us, Triple Threat Podcast 1. That's our handle on there. And yeah, we got more content coming, more great interviews coming. This is just the beginning of season 2, so be ready. Sign off, Chris Bruce, a.k.a. Detroit Mogul.
Vic Gurley, a.k.a. MVP Vic.
Ryan Keys, a.k.a. BK609.
Yeah.
To help wash my pain away. Now I don't make a payment late. New estate got my name on the gate. That's what my granny call amazing grace. Let me park the IA so I can take the rave. You can do it too, it just start